Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about multiplying fractions. The product of something is the result when two or more numbers are multiplied. To simplify, we're going to need to reduce our fraction so that when the numerator and denominator have no common factors other than 1, we know that our answer is simplified. In this example, we have 6/9. 3 is a factor of 6 and 3 is a factor of 9. So I can reduce or divide by each the numerator and the denominator by 3. And then my end result, 2/3, is my simplest form of the fraction. To multiply fractions, I simply multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and then simplify my answer. So our directions are to multiply and write our answer in simplest form. One is done for you. So I had the fraction 3/4 times the fraction 6/7. So what I did was I multiplied 3 times 6 and I got 18. I multiplied 4 times 7 and I got 28. And so I look at my fraction 18/28 and I notice that they're both even numbers. Even numbers are easily divisible by 2. So I just divide the numerator and the denominator by 2 and I get my final answer, 9/14. With example 2 here, I will simply multiply my numerators. 1 times 5 is 5. And then multiply my denominators. 3 times 8 is 24. And then I take a look at it and this cannot be simplified anymore, so I'm done. We are going to continue to multiply, but as you see, I'm starting out with some whole numbers. Vic number 1, very important concept number 1. Rewrite all whole numbers as a fraction with a denominator of 1. So I'm just going to, in my first example, rewrite my 7 as 7/1. I did not change its value, I just changed the way that it appears so that I can easily multiply my fractions. I multiply my numerators, 7 times 2 is 14, and I multiply my denominators, 1 times 5 is 5. Now I've got an improper fraction over here, so that means I've got more on the top than I do on the bottom. So now I'm going to change my improper fraction to a mixed number. I asked myself, how many times does 5 go into 14? 5 goes into 14 twice, so I pull out a 2. And then what I'm left with is 4/5, 2 and 4/5. Here on number 2, I've got 1/2 times 8. And remember, if I have a whole number, I just create a fraction with a denominator of 1. I can multiply the numerators and get 8, multiply the denominators and get 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So I'm allowed to have a whole number as my answer. So 1/2 times 8 is 4. Vic number 2, very important concept number 2. When multiplying mixed numbers, change mixed numbers to improper fractions. Then we'll multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and simplify. So here's an example already worked out for you. I have 4 1/3 times 2 1/2. I've got to change the 4 1/3 to a mixed number. To do that, I multiply 3 times 4 and get 12, and add 1 to get 13. So my 4 1/3 becomes 13/3. My 2 1/2 becomes 5/2. Now I go through the steps that I've used before. I multiply the numerators. 13 times 5 is 65. I multiply the denominators. 3 times 2 is 6, and then I reduce. 6 goes into 65 10 times with a remaining 5/6 left over. Here's another example. I'm going to write my answer in simplest form. First, by changing the mixed numbers to improper fractions. Mixed numbers to improper fractions. Notice here that I changed my X for multiply to a dot. That's just an old habit. They mean or represent the same thing. Vic number 3. You can simplify fractions before you multiply them by cross-reducing. So cross-reducing looks like this. If I look diagonally at my numerator on the left and my denominator on the right, I notice that they're easily divisible by 4. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually divide this number by 4 and get 1, and this number by 4 and get 3. So 4 goes into 4 one time, 4 goes into 12 3 times. I cross-reduced these numbers just now. It makes my multiplication process a little bit easier. I can do the same thing here. 5 goes into 5 one time, 5 goes into 35 7 times. So now when I multiply 3 times 7, I get 21. 1 times 1 is 1. I'm left with the answer of 21. So cross-reducing in this problem made my life a lot easier because I did not have to multiply these big 2-digit numbers together and then try to reduce at the end, which is kind of complicated. I simplified the process by cross-reducing first. You may do this, if you choose to, on your problems coming up. So you try these 4 problems for homework. If you would like to cross-reduce, go ahead.